Hey, 2%. 2%, man. That's about what I'm working with myself. J1. Being the most homeless I've ever been in my life. I gotta get through this. I'm doing bad. I got a lot of demons I need to get rid of. But I gotta say this 1%, y'all. It ain't nobody's fault but mine. Not a pity party. I'm literally outside. No key, no residence, no girl I can make up to, make her feel good and still be able to really go home. I doubt it. So all you got is me sitting right here, homeless. Friends and family, I know you're disappointed. Shit's not fun, y'all. Get off drugs. Give hugs. I'm out.
Today I am interviewing Tamir Thompson, also known as Fly Bella Fonte. Really, I just want to know your story. What was your upbringing, and what led you down the path that you went?
Well, I was born in Compton, California, and my father was a truck driver. My mother worked for the phone company, so we kind of traveled between L.A. and Oakland. I was the only one born in L.A. We moved back to Oakland, and would say like Thanksgiving '86. So we moved back to Oakland. Sobrani Park, East Oakland. Real rough neighborhood. A lot of killing and dealing. A lot of thugs and drugs, I used to say. Got a brother and two sisters. When we moved back to Oakland, it was kind of rough because that's when the crack epidemic hit, and we got a lot that we lost from that. So we ended up moving back to granddaddy's house, my uncles and aunties, and it's like 13 of us in a 3-bedroom house. So, there was times where it wasn't no electricity, wasn't no water, no heat, no food, We used to have to do stuff like use extension cords to steal the neighbors, electricity and things like that. You had to go steal water with the big arrowhead jugs from the school around the corner. At times our toilet didn't work, our plumbing was backed up, so at times we would have a tub full of feces. So it was kind of rough. My brother turned to the streets. My older brother Tom, my sister Michelle, she's the oldest. She was what basically you could call a gold digger. Her and my cousin Tamu ran around getting all the dope D-boys for their money, And my brother was running around either selling dope or robbing the D-boys. And so, didn't really get to see them a lot. They basically, was in the streets, and it was me and Pops. My mom left when I was like 5 years old. I would say my mom left. She got caught up in the drug life, and so she left us. And it was kind of tough, man. It was definitely tough. Just being that many people in the house. I had my cousins, Marcus and Nicole and Nicholas and Marvell and Danielle and Uncle Mark and Auntie Dina in one room. Then in the other room, there was Auntie Gail, Frank, and Jody. And in my room, it was me and my daddy. And if my brother and sister wasn't in the streets or in group homes or jail, it was me, my daddy, brother, and sister. And then we had Uncle Larry on the couch. He was the oldest. He was in the South Korean War. They used to fight over the drugs and stuff. break shit in the house and all of that. And it was rough, man, you know, but you know, we made it fun. You know, summer times we'll go sneak in pools, you know, go swimming. Played a lot of basketball to stay out the streets. But in 1991, my father, right when I graduated from the 8th grade, I found out my father got sick. And at first we thought it was tuberculosis. So it was kind of, you know, it was kind of like hard on me. And then he started getting sicker and sicker. And I played a lot of AAU basketball for the Oakland Running Rebels. And we had a tournament in Roanoke, Virginia. And I decided not to attend that, even though we played against Allen Iverson. I decided to stay back and volunteer at Highland Hospital so I could be close to my father, who was, his life was basically coming to an end. So, you know, I stayed, volunteered. Pops, you know, they found out, they thought he had tuberculosis, and come to find out he had HIV, basically full-blown AIDS. And he passed away. I was 14. So my brother was in prison. They wouldn't let him come home on a furlough or anything to come to the funeral. Mom still was like absent, you know, God bless her soul. She was still absent. And, you know, basically 9th grade, I had to move with my grandmother. Got to Granny. Granny was really, really religious. So, you know, it was either church or chores. Call it double C. It was either church or chores. Granny was kind of rough. Great woman. Louisiana. Roots come from Louisiana, you know. I'm like a third Creole, so, you know, we got them Southern roots in us. And, you know, Granny was hardworking, raised a few generations. And things, you know, things just basically were more harder than they were easier, you know. Although when I got to my grandmother's house, I felt like we was rich compared to what we lived in. And, you know, 9th grade, you know, went to Oakland Tech, you know, played a little sports. And then after 9th grade year, grandmother kicked me out. So I moved in with my cousin Tamu. I was in the 10th grade. So my cousin Tamu was, I would say, about 5-6 years older than me. So, you know, I'm 16, so she like 21, 22, raising her son, Tarek. 11th grade, I ended up moving with my sister to the projects in San Francisco. And I would catch the bus for 5 o'clock every morning. Got to the point to where the bus driver would actually slow the bus down and honk for me to make sure that I got on the bus to get on the BART to go to Oakland from by Candlestick Park, Double Rock Projects. Getting to school was like a big task, but I had to go to school. You know, I was into it. I was in student government. I got fairly good grades, you know. It never was about, you know, it was nothing illiterate about me. You know, I was in student government, leadership. I was in student council. I would go to, you know, student council conferences and things like that. So that kept me busy along with basketball. Junior year, I stayed with my sister. Senior year rolls around. My brother ended up out of prison, so I, you know, stayed with him in Oakland. So it was easier for me to get to school. Graduated from school, 1995. So what made me want to go to college is going on the college tours in high school. So I started seeing how college was, the college life. So I felt like that was something I wanted to do. And but when graduation came, right, like a week before graduation came, me and my brother were going to get my announcements and cap and gown and stuff. And this little dude named Pierre got murdered. Like, he was like a little baller. He was like 16, at the Corvette with the Ferrari top, all of that. Baller. Like, he was controlling the block. And somebody kidnapped him trying to get to his boss, which was this baller chick named Chris from the town. And they snatched him up, took him up to the Oakland Hills, you know, stabbed him like 17 times in the chest. They cut his thing off, you know, and shot him, left him for dead, you know. And so it was hot in my neighborhood, you know. And just going to get my announcements, me and my brother, we got ran up on by the police and laid down, and guns to the back of our head, and they thought we was the suspects. And, luckily they got on the radio, another officer was like, yeah, somebody's running. So they let us go and ran. And that's when I told myself I'm getting the fuck out of Oakland. So I got up out of Oakland. When I graduated, I was like, yeah, I'm going to college. Got accepted to Sac State, went to Sacramento State. Once I got to college, it was on and popping. I mean, hooked up with some other Oakland dudes, my cousin Dory and Rail, Monk, and, rest in peace, my boy Benner, B-Hype, from Richmond. And we just kind of all stuck together and, just doing little town shit, trying to stay in school. Eventually, that year, Mac Dre got out of prison. And we ran with his cousin Lo, so Mac Dre came out, and started being around us and started being cool, and he started developing his career back. And we kind of was there from the Kickstarter when he first got out of prison. And, it kind of became an everyday thing. Mac Dre was like my brother, And, so we was just rocking out in Sacramento. We knew a lot of the people in Sac, from Brother Lynch Hung and them. They called us the college boys. We sold a lot of weed, took our financial aid checks and flipped them, went back to Oakland, got some good weed, brought it back to Sacramento. So, we was doing our thing. We was some little hustlers, but at the same time, I was still on, I was a Dean's List student too as well, 3.7. But, the scholarships, I did get an academic scholarship my first 2 years. By the time the scholarship money ran out, it was like, okay, what I'm doing in school, So I started running with Dre and them in the romper room, and, we did our thing. Keeping up with them was like, keeping up with the Joneses. You had to have a fly whip, had to have something on some gold ones. We had to, show up and show out because we was with Mac Dre. And come 2002, another tragedy struck home. My brother got murdered in Oakland, and that kind of hit home hard, and I almost did some foul stuff that I'm glad I didn't, because I did try to go back and retaliate, but something told me not to, and I kind of let that slide, and I was there in a position to do something, and I kind of turned the switch off real quick, knowing that my brother was looking down on me. I wasn't the gangster, but, just a school dude, staying, and we was in the streets, man. We had to be, and basically, started a rap group in 2002 called Lumpy Pockets with my boy Benner and Fitz Mitchell. Benner from Oakland. I was affiliated with them in Oakland, played basketball with his cousin, played high school basketball. And Fitz Mitchell was from Richmond. His cousins, Arlo Tate, Jesse, and Howard Tate, and Marquis Richmond, they was from Richmond, California. They had a little boy group called Next Level. It was on a movie soundtrack called Sprung. So we was always around the music. We was busy. It was demos, limos, and bimbos for real. So, but, just, running the streets, man. My brother got killed, and then 2 years later, Mac Dre ended up getting murdered, so that kind of was hard. And so, me and my boys, we just started pushing. I ran into my boy Filthy Rich Productions. They do ski movies and stuff. We had a few sponsors, and ran into him in Reno, pushing my music, independently, just off the spindle, burning shit up, putting a graphic to it with a CD stomper, putting it in a jewel case, making it look like it came out of Tower Records. I need 10, 15, 20 for that. And asked me, did I want to be on the soundtrack for this movie? And I was like, yeah. So we linked up, and they did their skiing thing with Winter Olympic silver medalist Tanner Hall, and we hooked up with Sean King, the little carrot top dude who did the snowboarding. So we had some outlets, and we had like 6 sponsors. So every time we did a movie, we did 3 of them. We got 30 racks. So we was pushing with that, and just renting RVs, going across country. Independent. It was all 1,000% independent, Lumpy Pockets. So we made some noise, and I made a little change in the game. But then things started kind of getting little egotistical, a little, dysfunctional between the crew. We turned down about 2 record deals. We could have we had hook up with Interscope and Loud, and we kind of fucked those deals off, being I would say, we thought we was the shit. 50,000 wasn't enough for us. We felt like we could make that selling weed between 3 dudes. And, pushing the music, man, sex, drugs, and rock and roll, man, that's what it was. And then, I ended up moving to Reno in 2010. First time I, ever came across a hard drug was basically, it was Keith the Sneak's birthday. We was in Sacramento. I was with my boy Big Cheese, man, and, first time I just decided, some dude was like trying to get us to buy some of his blow, and so basically, I was like, I'm good, I don't do that. So my boy was like, man, it's cool. He's like, here, we'll take this and holler at me if y'all need some. So, just gave us a gram. And my partner just kept like pressuring me to do it. I'm like, nah, man, I'm good. He's like, man, just hit it. So I hit it, and it kind of was like game over, It started off slow. We'll hook up with dudes, gram or 2 between 5 dudes, but it was good shit. So, it was what it was, and things just, I was in a pretty good relationship with this one chick, man, and I started not being there. My kids, they would be there, coming on the weekends, and I started kind of like disappearing and being gone. Always in the bathroom. Why you always in the bathroom? And I was hiding from her. She didn't know, and she ended up getting pregnant, and she was in the hospital and had like a miscarriage. And instead of me being there for her, I was with my boy getting high, trying to talk to these girls and all of that. And like, so, that relationship ended. And I ended up moving to Reno. When I was in Reno, I was out there with my boy Ty Nificent, my boy Low, T Reezy from the town. My boy Valley Trees, we was out there doing our thing with the music on the scene, and, Reno's like Vegas' dirty little cousin, so drugs was definitely available, so I just became more attached to the alcohol, going to the casinos, put $10 in, you get all the drinks, just gamble all night, drink all night. Became a routine, and just began to, then I came across a boy, my homeboy Shotty, came to Reno to do a song, and he was doing some music with us, and was like, yeah, man, I live in Bend, Oregon, and it's like, you should come with me. So I was like, fuck it, I ain't doing shit out here. Went to Bend, Oregon, started pushing his music for like a year and a half in Bend, and then I ended up coming to Boise with him a couple of times, and he was dropping weed off to this dude in Boise, and next thing you know, I'm in Boise. When I got to Boise, that's when things got bad. It just seemed like everybody that I was around was doing it. And, it went from just snorting it to then the foil came. And then it was like, okay. And then it was just like, all right. It started off like kind of, casual. And then, I had this really good job at CenturyLink, but I would be so worried about getting high that, I would be going home or taking days off, and I started seeing it rubbing off on me, but I didn't realize it. It got really bad. So, I left CenturyLink, found out my mother had stage 4 melanoma, and so, I kind of left CenturyLink after they had a big lawsuit against them, so the spiff stopped, and I wasn't making as much money. Plus, I just wanted to spend my time getting high, so I started selling it to people from the bars, and then it really got out of hand because I had it all day, and selling it was a lot of easy access. So I ended up getting a DUI, got out of that, had some probation, finished that probation, and then one day I got caught from a warrant for not going to court, and I ended up, that's where the whole process started for the case that ended up ultimately leading to a rider, which led me to get caught again after that rider, which put me in drug court. So that's what basically was the story that got me started in drug court.
So you said when did you move to Boise?
In 2015.
Okay. And that's when it got real bad?
It got bad, but around 2018, I mean, I honestly could probably say I probably made $1 million. And that's not even, like, I grossed $1 million in 2018 alone, probably. I was having a lot of money and a lot of drugs, but I was spending a lot of money and doing a lot of drugs. Everybody was at my house. I had my own apartment. Everybody was coming through there at the strip clubs, all the chicks coming back. It was just party like a rock star, you know. Before you know it, honestly, probably was doing like an ounce a day, you know, wasting all that money. You know, I was fronting a lot of people. It was wild. It was wild. I mean, you know, it definitely changed things. You know, it got to the point where my kids would come to Boise and I would be doing it in the other room, but they didn't even really know. You know, but I think they had an idea, especially trying to keep the smell out. But they were like kind of, you know, game goofy to that because they weren't around that. I kept all that away from them. But yeah, it got bad to the point to where, you know, I had started selling and losing stuff. I can't tell you what I did with all that money, but a lot of people owe me money. But I spent a lot of money and wasted a lot of money on just countless stuff. I bought and paid for a Porsche Cayenne that I don't know why I bought that, knowing I didn't have a job. So I started getting on the radar. Somebody who was a bail bondsman told me that I was damn near about to get indicted. So I just started getting rid of stuff. And with that became more desperation to get back what I had, to keep that high that I had, because my tolerance got built so high. And so, you know, I just kind of just spun out of control.
So you ended up going on a writer.
Yeah, 2022. I got to Cottonwood I got arrested on August 2nd, 2022. I went to RDU, and then I went to Cottonwood on October 17th, 22, got out June 1st, 2023.
What happened after?
Well, I thought I was going to be sober. I thought I was cool. I was on probation. I got into the halfway house, 208 housing, and it was cool. And then a lot of like drug activity started coming through there, and you know, I didn't stick to my routine of, you know, just going to work. I wasn't really going to meetings or anything, but I started connecting with people that I shouldn't have been connected with, that I tried to put behind me, but, you know, I started connecting back with, and that just put me right back to where I was. And I ended up getting arrested on March 6th of 2024, 3 days before my birthday at the halfway house. And so, yeah.
How long did it take you after getting out to pick it back up?
I would say about a month and a half, and I was right back at it. Got out in June. Before August came, yeah, I was by the middle of July. I went through 4th of July sober and all of it. I was around, you know, people that was drinking and stuff, and I was like, I'm good. Then it just started itching and seeing people that I knew I shouldn't have been talking to, and next thing you know, I was back at it.
Were you serious about wanting to be sober, or did you envision a life like that?
Well, honestly, I knew from the gate, I was just trying to really I was playing by ear, by sight on how my probation officer was.
Yeah.
To see if he was going to be testing this, and they was kind of lenient, you know, so they would, and he moved, and he actually moved, and I got assigned another one, so I was like, and, you know, it was cool, so, you know, I would just show up high.
Yeah.
And, you know, they didn't never test me when I was there. It was just that when they came to the house, you know, I was in possession of about a ball with a scale and stuff. So, that's how I got caught up.
So you just went in on a PV,
Yeah.
and then, yeah.
So
How long were you in county?
I was in county from March 6th to July 25th.
Okay.
And, I fought for drug court. They, felt that that'd be something that I would do. And so I asked for drug court. They gave it to me. And
Were you wanting it?
yeah, I felt like it was time. Like when I was in jail, when I was in county, my son, I called him on his birthday, and like he kind of like was pissed off my youngest Trayson. And he was just like, Dad, 13 years, like you're barely here, like, And I was like, well, I'm going to get my stuff together when I get out. I'm going to come back. I'm going to be sober. I'm going to come watch you play high school basketball. And all of that bullshit that I thought, he wanted to hear. And then he hung up on me and didn't answer the phone again while I was in jail. So when he hung up that phone, I was like hurt. Like, I felt like the world crumbled down on me. And so I was like, yeah, I think it's time.
I want to know what your drug court experience really has been. Entering in, you were grateful, I'm assuming. Was it a struggle? Because I'm in drug court as well, and I know what it consists of, but everyone's journey is different. So
yeah, so when I did get into drug court, it was overwhelming. The first few days I got out, didn't have anything. Had to find a job close to the place. They got the ankle monitor on you. You in CTC.
So you went to CTC?
Yeah, I went to study.
Okay.
They released me to the Community Transitional Center. So.
And you got out to no car,
I got out to no car,
literally nothing.
One pair of pants, like some RBXs, like some shoes that somebody gave me. They stole all my stuff at the halfway house. My studio got stole, all my clothes. I had built my clothes up when I got out of Cottonwood, and but all of that got stole. So like when I got out, it was like square one. I had to use the $25 voucher at St. Vincent.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was hard.
And then, you acquired it all back, but what did that take?
Well, the first phase is just really about kicking and screaming, but I really wasn't trying to kick and scream. Mm-hmm. I kind of like knew what I wanted to get through this and make my life better from the gate. At first, it was overwhelming. I didn't have a car. Had to catch the bus. And then once I got out of CTC, I got accepted to the Phoenix House, which is way off of almost Cloverdale in Overland. I had a job. I got a job at, On Time Sports and Cafe Rio. So I got 2 jobs. And I started working a lot, like 70 hours a week, close to. And so I bought me an e-bike. And I put like 2,000 miles on that bike in like 2 or 3 months. And it was hard. It was turning into fall, winter, started getting cold.
What'd you do in the winter? You just kept on going?
Yeah.
On your bike? You really didn't have a choice.
On my bike. The gloves and layered pads didn't work. My kneecaps would be freezing. Hands would be freezing. And it was a lot. I ended up with having like 23 flats. I had to get a whole nother e-bike, so I spent about $2,500 on between 2 e-bikes. So I went through 2 e-bikes, 23 flat tires. Seemed like every other day I was getting a flat. I even got hit by 2 cars trying to get there, but I still didn't let it be an excuse for me not showing up. Because by phase 2, I was able to move closer into Joe's house, which is a magnificent house. Joe Howe's totally a great guy, man, and he's been through it too. So, the day I signed my contract, he put his prison ID on there to show me that where he came from. And he's like one of the best real estate agents in the Treasure Valley. So shout out to Joe Howe. He definitely looked out for me, let me come in, and I just kept pushing. Phase 2, just, okay, let me knock this shit out. Still working 70 hours, 70-hour weeks, getting up at 5 a.m., getting home like 9:30, 10, right at curfew, having to get up, do it all again. Going to my meetings, dealing with my sponsor, trying to work those steps. And it just started slowly but surely coming together.
So now you're almost at the finish line.
Yeah.
How's that feel? What are your, you know?
Well, it feels great. I mean, first of all, every morning when I wake up, I thank God for giving me the opportunity to have the strength and the patience of what it takes to get through this program, because it's rigorous. But once you learn that it's only about 8 to 10 hours a week, it's not that bad. What most people, I think, get caught up in is the fact that it's a lot of stuff that you can't do. So not being able to do the stuff that you want to do and thinking they just small rules, like the vaping, like, the NCOs. It's like, a lot of people relapse. So, like at least 10, 11 people have died since I've been in drug court for overdose. Countless people have went to jail, broke NCOs, or just absconded. And so I learned a lot of lessons from those people. And I'm like, nah, it's not that hard. I mean, it's not Harvard. It's not MIT. It's not Stanford. It's basically just accepting who you were, who you're trying to become, surrendering, giving, all your, just surrendering to God, surrendering to the program, working the steps, following the rules. Even the small rules matter. That's the difference between getting a sanction and a good bar. Those things all add up. People, even when I go to meetings, I like to speak, let my presence be felt. I like to tell a story because I might be able to inspire somebody who's having issues. And so, all of those things inspired me to keep going, like, especially when people slip and fall. And I'm like, man, I was thinking of doing that same thing. But I dig deep, and I tell myself, man, all I'm doing is taking accountability for my actions, realizing the salvage relationships that I need to get back, and just allowing this program to help me do that. And it's been helping me do that.
Yeah. I mean, the fact that you are where you are and the amount of time speaks volumes, I think. But you touched on something that I would like to go back on. You said what you were and what you are going to be. If you were to describe what you were, like sum it up, what was that compared to now and then what you're going to be?
An Oaklandistic, chauvinistic, broken misfit. That's what I was. Selfish, egotistical, narcissistic. I mean, we could throw all of that in there.
Was it always that way, though? There had to be good quality. It wasn't always bad.
Oh, no. I mean, I ain't never just been, I ain't never been a devil's advocate.
Yeah.
But at the same time, a lot of trauma, a lot of excuses for me to use that trauma as a reason to get high.
Right.
Running away from the problem instead of trying to run toward a solution. And, just the absence from my kids, not being able to come through for them. They went through some tough times when, I wasn't around. And, it's good that I've always kind of kept them in my heart, not kind of, I always have kept them in my heart. But this disease is powerful. I mean, it took a hold of me. This shit put me in a straitjacket, So,
What did a lot of your family suffer from addiction?
Oh yeah, my whole family.
Yeah.
Yeah, my aunts and uncles. They definitely lost everything in the early '80s, and that was the real crack era. And so I watched everything get taken away. And I always told myself, I'll never do drugs. I'll never do hard drugs. And I did it all under the sun.
Yeah.
Fentanyl, coke, crack, heroin, meth, weed, ecstasy, shrooms, acid, LSD, but mostly weed was my drug of choice when I got in trouble, since weed stayed in your system so long. So I started doing the other shit, but I did that a lot. And I think actually in 1 year I did more dope than my mom and my dad did combined in their whole crack career in the 80s in 1 year.
Yeah.
I did, I'm surprised I didn't die. Seriously.
It's amazing how because I I used to say that, how I would never do that ever in my life, right? And then I literally became all of the things that I said I would never do.
Right. I mean,
it's wild
if,
how it works.
I mean, you never think that you're going to do that, but the company you keep, I mean, birds of a feather gonna flock together. I mean, it's gonna rub off on you in some kind of way. It's gonna be some kind of curiosity that's gonna come through at some point in time. And temptation is a motherfucker, man. I mean, it's definitely, something that I never thought I would be doing. And then once I start doing it, I kind of start shying away from my family because I didn't want them to know. And every time I pop up, I'm always fresh to death. So, they're going to see me and it's going to be boom. But, I guess they say, to a cigarette smoker with a blind nose or nose blind, if you smoke cigarettes, you can't smell the cigarettes on you. And I put that in a metaphorical analogy, a simile or whatever, that, you can't see how you look because you.
Right.
But other people can see that weight loss. They can see that look on your face. And, I look at some pictures and I'm like, damn, that was me. Like, and it's like kind of sad, So I kind of was shy, and it kind of made me go deeper into a hole because I felt like everybody was looking down on me. So, yeah, and I felt like everything was like not going right. So it was like, fuck it. At one point in time, I really was suicidal and stuff. And like, I can admit that, I'll call my cousin Marcus up, and he's a New York Times bestseller, and try to get me like, man, just write your book. He bought me a computer, bought me all kinds of stuff. Ended up selling the shit and stopped writing. So, but when I was in Cottonwood in the county, I did like kind of get about 75% of my book done. So, it's a story that's gonna be told, and I do have an outlet for that. So, I mean, I wouldn't trade none of it though. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I could have been 22, graduated from Cal Berkeley, and been a millionaire and choked on a teaspoon of water, or got hit by a soccer mom van. Who the fuck knows? But, so I know that God got me where I'm at for a reason, so I'm fine with that. And, I just push every day, one foot in front of the other, and I'm going to get to where I need to get.
Where do you need to get? What is your next chapter look like?
My next chapter, man, is just working the program the way I've been working it, staying busy, staying and going to my meetings, and, staying, working the steps, and, working with my sponsor, and having a good sober support group, and keeping in contact with my kids is good. From family weekend last weekend, as you know, my kids were there via satellite, and, we was like, hey, Dad, we should just do this every month and talk, and just all zoom in on the call if we can't be together. So, we're gonna start doing that. And but once I'm done, I'm not really gonna change anything. I plan to go see my grandmother. She has dementia, and that's like my rock right there. So I gotta make sure I go and check on my grandmother, but at the same time, stay away from the negative things. But the funny thing is that all my homeboys from the hood, they married, and they got kids, and they don't really do much. So I'm totally cool with that. But I'm not 100% sure if I want to just 100% move back to the Bay or Cali. It's something I have to really think on. It depends on my situation. I'm doing good at my job, and I feel like I can be successful wherever I'm at. I mean, the flight's only an hour and a half if I need to go see my family. So just staying with it, man, staying with it. Finishing my book for sure when I get a little more time. Help some cats out with some music, bust my studio back out and get some production going, and tap into some of my resources. I'm a man with many resources, but I didn't cry wolf on a lot of them. So it's time to get those resources on deck and make it happen. My legacy is just gonna be selflessness, love. I'll get the shirt off my back. Each one teach one. I feel like my job is to educate people, because I feel like I'm relatable, especially to the youth out there. Everything that they think they did, there's nothing new under the sun, as a wise man once said. And I just feel like I can reach the youth. So I'm thinking about probably actually going back to school, you know, get some kind of counseling credentials and things like that. I'm gonna finish my book, and but it's all about helping the youngsters, man, because these new generations, it's kind of sad that this deadly drug out there, fentanyl, is in everything. Too many people are dying. My mother overdosed to fentanyl in 2022, so it hit close to home with that as well. So I'm just tired of seeing people dying. I'm tired of mothers crying and babies dying. It's time to get some hope. I'm trying to sell some hope, not dope.